bite me so bad. Bald eagles do love to fight, so you kind of have to watch them a little more carefully. And the gulls don't bite nearly as much. But you will, and oh my gosh, your feathers are an absolute. This last spring, I get a phone call from the non-game regional biologist for the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources that one of the bald eagles, and there I believe were three, one of the bald eagles wasn't developing properly, the other two were flying, this one was not. And out of the exact same nest as the white-bellied bald eagle that we called him. So far, there's no indication that he is growing back any feathers, just like his older brother didn't grow back any feathers. And so we're back in that same position right now of having this beautiful bald eagle, has lost almost all of its flight feathers, cannot fly. We will have him for a year, maybe 2 years or so. And now it's just a wait and see. We're going to talk a little bit about the white-bellied bald eagle. It's not a happy story, and so please bear with me. Now, we talked about the white-bellied bald eagle, where it came from. It was brought to us by the Utah Division of Natural Resources. The bald eagle was brought to us. It was skinny. It couldn't fly. It had parasite issues to deal with. And it had the worst primary and secondary feathers I've ever seen. They were in very, very bad shape. And so there's a couple of things you can take from that. Either this particular eagle was malnourished throughout its growth, and the feathers just didn't grow properly and had issues along those lines, or it had a genetic predisposition, a genetic disease that the feathers did not grow properly. And so the goal was, let's keep that eagle, keep it in a chamber, keep it healthy, keep it well fed. For which we did, and in the hopes that in a year or maybe two, that the feathers would grow back in appropriately, so that the eagle then could fly back and forth in the flight chamber, get some exercise, and hopefully get returned back to the wild. I brought a feather here. This is Bell's feather. This is not an eagle feather, but I'm going to show you kind of what I'm talking about here. Is with this, let me get this up here where you guys can see it. Now, this is a perfectly normal, healthy feather quill that you normally see, and the end of the feather is kind of a clearish white color. It's kind of rounded at the tip, and this is what sticks into the cuticle of the bird's body that allows the feather to grow. As the feather grows out from the cuticle, it grows in a protein shaft, and the protein shaft is full of blood. And if the blood flow isn't sufficient, then the feather doesn't develop properly. And so when they're growing new feathers, we say that the feathers are blood feathers, or that the feathers are in blood. And so this is all part of the natural course of things. And so with the bald eagle that we got in, it became very, very obvious, because it was losing its primary and secondary flight feathers, which are the main wing feathers, and the tail feathers were falling out. Now they shouldn't fall out until the molt, which is a year later, but they were falling out, and you could look at the feather, right here at the quill, and it was yellow. There was a little bit of skin that was on the feather right here, where the cuticle was bad. Um, it was sharp as a pencil, very very sharp at the tip. Uh, it was crooked and curved, weird. The feathers had a lot of big problems on them, and so it became pretty obvious what we were dealing with is a genetic issue more so than a food issue. And we generally, if we cannot return the birds back to the wild, um, we either can place them in an educational program, but if they're not suitable for an educational program, then by federal law we have to euthanize them. And quality of life becomes a big part of it. There's no such thing as a no-kill wildlife rescue organization because we don't have the luxury of just keeping whatever comes into us. So anyway, we kept this bald eagle longer than the normal length of time. We kept it for about 2 years, and in that 2 years period of time, not only did the feathers not grow back, and they would never grow back, no matter how well we fed it, and no matter how good the conditions were, it was never going to be able to fly. Now we have a secondary problem in that it had a lot of other genetic issues that we were dealing with at the same time. And one of them was its talons. Now, if you can see right here on Piper, you can see the toenails curved down, and so that the bird can grip. And with that eagle, some of the talons were kind of turned to the side, where they weren't sitting properly, and so its feet were not useful for hunting. In fact, our pretty little peregrine Helen has one talon that curves upward instead of down, and so she has a lot of genetic issues as well, and this is why she's mostly blind. But she doesn't weigh as much as an eagle does, and for an eagle that can't fly, that spends its whole life on the ground, we have a an injury, a disease that we call bumblefoot. And what bumblefoot is if these guys on the bottom of their feet, if they get a bruise, and because they spend a lot of time standing on their feet, they get a bruise. If they can't take the pressure off that bruise will swell and will swell, and as it swells, it develops scar tissue, and the swelling gets bigger, and to the point where the foot can't close, it's not usable, and it's swollen and it's sore and it's painful to the birds. There's some surgery that we could do where you basically you put the bird to sleep, you cut open its foot, you cut out all the inflammation, and you stitch it back up. But the problem when you do that is the scar tissue develops from the injury from the stitches, and you have to do it all over again. And so it got to the point with that bald eagle that the talons were growing in weird directions, and I had to go in and trim the talons quite frequently because they were growing out of control. Bumblefoot was occurring on the feet. It couldn't fly. It didn't grow into its normal feathers, and the eagle quality of life started to deteriorate. It wasn't suitable as an educational animal, and what is always the worst day of my life is I had to make the decision that quality of life is far more important than quantity of life. And I had to make the decision that to do the most humane thing and go ahead and euthanize that bald eagle. And, the problem with this is I have to make that decision far too often. Um, Animals, birds brought in with wings that are virtually ripped off, or legs that are virtually ripped off, and there's no way to fix it. And the only thing that you can truly do for it is, again, to um, do the humane thing and put them out of their misery. I am extremely fortunate that I have a very, very dear friend that I could sit down and talk to, and that's my Golden Eagle Scout. And so I can sit down with Scout in a shady spot in the yard or somewhere, and he listens to me, and he lets me vent my anger, my frustration, my fears, my pain, and he seems to, in some way, he seems to understand what I'm saying. Okay, well, we're going to transfer our bald eagle that we've got here over to the Enoch Wildlife Rescue Center and put it in the big eagle flight chambers. So let's go grab him. Look, kiddo. You're not going to let go of it until we get you where you're going to go. Okay? Go on, big guy.
He's just going to hang on to it, huh?
He's going to hang on to him. He's got a big grip on the net, and we'll put him in the box and he'll let go. The feathers are a mess, big guy.
Does not want to let go.
Nope.
Whew.
Not happy. There we go. Now get in the door.
Yep.
Now this is going to be a little uneventful. This poor guy has got a genetic abnormality, especially his big flight feathers didn't grow in properly. He's an absolute mess. We're going to keep him through the molt, so he's going to be with us for at least a year, and hopefully he'll grow in feathers properly and be able to fly here. In this big chamber, but it's sure good to have a place big enough that we can get these guys out. As long as they get along together, that's great. If they don't, you can see here that we've got the two. Come over this way, Sue. If there's any issues and they're not getting along, we've got these giant gates that we built into the facility, and the purpose for the gates is that we can open them so that we have two chambers that are 20 feet wide and 100 feet long, and we can leave them open so the birds can circle and fly all the way around through the entire building. Right now, we'll just leave it closed for the moment until we see how well they get along. This is our observation area to be able to look inside the eagle flight chamber. So we're going to raise the blinds up a little bit. And this is the view that everybody gets when they come to our rescue center. We have several different perches in the flight chamber. They're different heights, they're different thicknesses, they're padded differently, so that the eagles don't always have to land on the same kind of a surface. And so this gives them a variety of different perches, and our bald eagle that's down on the floor because of his poor feather growth can't fly, and so he needs perches of different sizes and shapes. That's about as good as he can do because of his, and so you can see he can get on that perch. The perch that's in front of that is 4 feet high, and that's too high for him to jump. And then I've got another perch that's 2 feet high, the green one, and one that's 3 feet high. He can get on top of the 3 foot high perch. And so again, we make different perches, different sizes, different shapes, so that they have a variety of different perches. And so we're back in that same position right now of having this beautiful bald eagle, has lost almost all of its flight feathers, cannot fly. We will have him for a year, maybe 2 years or so. Hopefully we will be able to take that eagle. Hopefully he'll start growing back the feathers appropriately. He's in one of our 20 feet wide by 100 foot long flight chambers. So he's got an awful lot of room. He's got a roommate. He's got a golden eagle in there that is flying back and forth across the flight chambers as well. Lots and lots of food available to them, lots of fresh water. And now it's just a wait and see. But the problem that we have when we do this, a bald eagle or a golden eagle will consume, at a minimum, 2 extra large rats a day. We don't bother them, we don't approach them, we don't want to terrify them, and so all we're going to do is throw the food to them and in the middle of the chamber so they can come and get their breakfast. Now these guys will eat 2 of these extra large rats a day. So we'll give them 4. Of course, they're not going to come and try to eat them until I leave. And the extra large rats, if I can get them on sale, they're about $5-6 a piece. You know, if I have to feed them mice, forget it. I mean, mice, they'd eat like 30 mice at $1 or $2 a piece. We can't do that. So, but the rats are big enough to feed them. So we order in from our supplier thousands of dollars worth of frozen rats, mice, and quail to feed the injured wildlife that we care for. And so we're going to go a couple of years of feeding this guy in the hopes that he will grow in feathers sufficiently enough to be released. But in the meantime, that's a lot of expense in food for these guys. But for the bald eagle, the prognosis isn't very good, and we're doing everything in our power to save its life. So that's kind of where we're at.
So you've said many times that every single critter that you care for is very unique. So do you think, having had the experience of the first white-bellied bald eagle, anything you've learned from that and any situations that are different now that you think might increase the odds for the second one of similar problems?
The only big difference between the previous white-bellied bald eagle and their bald eagle now is that our facilities are significantly bigger and significantly better. And so, you know, the golden eagle that we have in right now is doing wonderful, and he's flying 100 feet back and forth across the chamber, and he's doing really, really well. This was an eagle that was hit by a car. The golden eagle was hit by a car. This golden eagle busted the grill of a pickup truck. It wasn't a car, it was a pickup truck. It had some soft tissue damage. It had a severe concussion. It was in really, really bad shape. And without that new, bigger, and better facility, um, I don't think we could have gotten the eagle to the point now where we're even starting to think about, in the not too distant future, releasing it back to the wild. So we have facilities that we've never had before, and that's wonderful. But genetic problems are genetic problems, and we can offer better therapy and better facilities, but we can't change the genetics.
Looking back at the time, on August 23rd, 2019, when that first eagle arrived, you had a smaller facility, you had an old Subaru, and you only had about 20,000 subscribers on YouTube. But now it seems like you have a lot more resources. Can you reflect on that, on the past years? Has it gone by in a whirl, or are you conscious of that or working towards that?
It's unbelievable. It truly is unbelievable. Um, you know, we went along for many, many decades. Um, all of the wildlife rescue at my home, Susan and I, with making the money from our little dog grooming shop. And so to go from that to this brand new rescue center, where we have 15 um, rescue chambers uh, for hawks and falcons and owls, plus the two big flight chambers, the two 20 by 100-foot flight chambers. We actually have a clinic where all of our vet supplies are right there. We have steel tables and countertops and places where we can work with the animals. Um, Not everything has to be in my refrigerator in my kitchen. Now, the rescue center has a refrigerator, and we have a place for staff. We have a place for volunteers. And so, we are moving forward. Like I said, my entire goal really is to get our Enoch Wildlife Rescue Center sufficiently established, not only the buildings, but also financially, that when Susan and I are no longer here, that there will be a federally licensed wildlife rescue facility in the state of Utah. And it's because of all of you. Um, I mean, my dear friends from every country around the world that have watched our YouTube channel and has donated funds and have purchased gift certificates for rodent probe for food for the animals. Um, you know, it's almost beyond words. I went this morning. Susan and I went out and did our running our errands and shopping and that kind of stuff. And I had to stop at the local feed store to buy food for the pigeons because we have flocks of pigeons here, and had to buy food for the pigeons. And I come walking out of the store, and this happened today. Walking out of the store, and I've got a 50-pound bag of pigeon food over my shoulder as we're walking out of the store, and I hear someone yelling, "Mr. Tyner, Mr. Tyner." And I turn around to look, and here's this very sweet lady, and I recognized her. I couldn't quite place her, and she's introduced herself, and she says, um, "Do you remember a month or so ago, and we came to your rescue center with my husband, and he's in a wheelchair, and you were able to bring out your Golden Eagle Scout for my husband to see, and we appreciate everything that you do, and can I buy you another 50-pound bag of food for the animals?" And I'm going, "Sure, that would be very sweet of you." And so, I put the 50-pound bag in my car, and then I walked back in the store and grabbed another 50-pound bag of food for the animals. And she was all excited and walked up to the counter, and she, paid the 50-pound bags are like a little over $30. And so she went to pay the $30 for the thing, and then she asked the cashier at the store. She says, "Do you guys do gift certificates?" And they says, "Oh yeah, we do." And she says, "Can I buy a $40 gift certificate as well?" And they said, "Sure." So she bought a $40 gift certificate and handed it to me and says, "This is for the next bag of food that you need." That is that kind of kindness is what has kept Susan and I going. Um, and we're incredibly grateful to all of you. So, the Subaru and Findlay Subaru, the Eccles Foundation, Rocky Mountain Power, all of our corporate sponsors that we're dealing with, but primarily the thing that really, really means the world to me are you guys. You guys willing to buy a bag of food or a bag of frozen rats and mice or just sending us, $10, $20 and saying, "Here, use this for the critters." And it's meant everything to us. Enoch Wildlife Rescue Center is not open to the public. It's not a public facility, but if you will call us and make an appointment, I am more than happy for myself or Susan or maybe one of our volunteers to meet you at the rescue center and give you a tour, show you our facilities and the creatures that we're caring for.
So even though it's been a long time since we first did a video about the first white-bellied bald eagle, that video still has a lot of views, and there's still a lot of inquiries about how that eagle did or is doing. And the page is still kind of active. So I've got some questions that people have asked in the comment section. Do you want to run through those?
Sure, let's do it.
All right. Why not just let the eagle die? 2 years of supporting an eagle is a massive financial cost. They eat and eat. Surely it would be better to use those funds to save more animals and entire habitats rather than just one eagle. Eagle numbers are now more than sufficient.
And I understand exactly where you're coming from. That's very true. Um, let's just say I'm too dumb to quit. When an animal comes into my rescue center, um, we will do everything we can as long as what we're doing maintains an appropriate quality of life, to make sure that the animal has every opportunity. And as I said earlier, it's painful for me. It has always been painful for me, especially with eagles, to have to make that decision. Um, the decision was made, and I've moved on from there. But it's a tough decision to make, and we're always trying to find, is there anything else? Is there any research? Is there anything else we can try? Any medications? What can we do to possibly turn this around. But the reality is, with the white-bellied bald eagle, there wasn't anything we could do to turn that thing around. And so, yes, you're correct. It was very expensive. But with all the animals that I care for, I'm going to do everything in my power to give them a second chance.
Aren't you interfering with nature, though? I thought there was a rhyme and reason for weak animals to not survive.
Well, the generally that's true. Generally that's true, but the vast majority of animals that come to my rescue center, their injuries are human caused. And so the vast majority of eagles that come into my rescue center are hit by cars and trucks on the highways. Um, barbed wire fences take out a lot of them. Windows take out a lot of them. Field fencing and those kinds of things. And so it's not just the fact that 80% die, and I'm stepping in to put less than strong enough birds back to the wild. I'm basically trying to fix the things that we as a species have broken. And see, I was always raised that if you break something, you have a moral and ethical responsibility to try to repair it. And so anytime an animal comes in, especially when it's a human caused damage, um, I feel very, very responsible that we should try to repair the damage and, if at all possible, get it back to the wild. It's just the human thing to do.
I don't understand why they can't make more water features to help keep extinction from occurring. That's what I don't understand. It's not, to me, interfering when you're keeping species alive. Just my thoughts.
Well, the truth of the matter is, it's called greed. Um, you know, when I moved here almost 46 years ago, moved here to Utah, um, within walking distance of where I'm sitting right now, I had 6 ponds, and these 6 ponds were stock ponds, um, basically small water reservoirs for the alfalfa fields, for watering the alfalfa fields, and waterfowl would come in, and it was just a beautiful place to be. Right now, all the ponds are gone, and they're planting houses, and so the growth that we are the stress from the growth that we're putting on the environment is a real issue. Um, and so all of this, all these places that are growing, it's private property and they have a right to do what they want. But in most cases, whenever there's a development, very little concern is given to the wildlife that's being displaced. I had two gray foxes this year that came into our rescue center. And again, we take them in the rescue center. We had to finish getting them raised up and getting them released back to the wild. With these gray foxes, they basically went into a patch of desert and graded it all off and planted a subdivision. In the process of grading off this beautiful piece of desert, they tore up the den for the gray foxes. Mom was chased off. There were four, I believe, four foxes. Two of them were dead, and two of them I got. And we got them raised up, and then we got them relocated in a location that is appropriate. That development isn't going to hit there for a very long time. And so it's yes, we do need to, us as humans, we do need to take into to account whenever we change the ecosystem, you know, how much damage are we doing, and is this going to come back and bite us? Because far too often it does.
I hate to sound cold, but wouldn't saving that bird weaken the gene pool for those birds?
You know, um, yes, yes, and again, Mother Nature's quite cruel. Mother Nature's very cruel about taking genetically, and this is why the bird ended up on the ground and starving to death and those kinds of things. But if we could have got the bird flying well, and if we could have got the birds so that its feet were in good condition, if we could have got the bird as an educational animal, it would have been incredible. So it's not just trying to get it released, though that's always kind of the number one priority is try to get everything released we can. But it's also if we're capable of using them like little Piper here as a wildlife ambassador to educate the public, then that's actually significant value.
Do you ever use Scout to help rehabilitate eagles?
Well, I don't use Scout to rehabilitate eagles um, because there's Scout's not going to teach them anything. Um, they learn from experience, not from a teacher, and so um, and having Scout as bonded to me as my friend, having Scout as a wildlife ambassador that we can travel and educate people about golden eagles and the value that they are within our ecosystem within the wild is extremely important work. And as I tell people all the time, if I can get people this close to a hawk, an eagle, or a falcon, when they go out into the wilds, they won't hurt them. And so that's a big part. I'll be honest with all of you guys. Um, I will save thousands and thousands and thousands of more animals through education than I will ever save as a wildlife rehabilitator. But as I said before, the purpose for wildlife rehabilitation is to try to repair what we have broken. And so it's basically it's doing the human thing.